Afternoon. My name is Maggie Nielsen, and I'm here with Purse Strings. And Purse Strings goes live every Monday at 1:30, and we are all about providing free financial education. So each week is just a different topic that we talk about, break down, and regular English. And so we can talk about all this great education. And then when you need a professional to turn to, we have top tier financial professionals who love to serve the female market, really want to help you, hit your growth goals, whether that's in business or just personal life. And so we have top tier professionals for you. We have, attorneys, lenders, realtors, FAs, insurance brokers, all that good stuff. And so today we are here with Anna Maria, and she is one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So we're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I am excited too.
It should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about all things kind of business insurance. And I know when we were having this conversation, I was already learning so many things. So I was like, oh, there's plenty of spots to dig in. So I think it's going to be a real educational session today, and a lot to walk away with. So before we get started, could you just, anyone who doesn't know you, share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Anna Maria Viti Welch, and I am president of the Viti companies, and we're a third generation family owned business. We represent many insurance companies, and we can help individuals as well as businesses. And we also are licensed in most states.
Awesome. And where are you calling in from today?
Highwood, Illinois, which is a northern suburb.
Awesome. I had no idea. I thought you guys were just two generations, but you guys are three. So wow, that is very impressive. And so today we're talking all things business insurance. And so, we're definitely talking more small business here, as we know, bigger corporations are on a whole different scale. But at what point do you need business insurance?
Everybody needs insurance because, for instance, you're being sued. The general liability policy or any liability policy offers you or gives you an attorney and pays for the fines, fees, and any settlements up to the limit that you have. So you'd rather pay an insurance policy monthly, it just depends on what type of business you are. I'd rather pay that than an attorney for, $500 to $800 an hour.
Oh, yeah. And so even if some women have, part-time side hustles at home where they're, maybe coaching or doing bookkeeping or, even making some foods or products, all those people need to protect themselves.
Yes. Food. You need product liability. What if somebody claims? Now, this is another thing also. Anybody can sue anyone. Doesn't matter. So if you get a lawsuit, you have to hire an attorney, even if it's fraud. But I will let you know that, people with the food business, you need product liability. If somebody claims they were sick or allergic off your food, a bookkeeper especially. You might want some crime, and also you are probably doing this virtually. So you really want to have, cyber coverage at least.
And that's something I definitely want to jump into in a minute. But I think it's important for us to remember that even if we think it's a small business or kind of insignificant, it's not. And you do need to be protected.
And also, too, it doesn't cost to get a quote. Just because you call someone and get a quote doesn't mean you're obligated either. So,
right.
And you might be surprised on, the cost, because a lot of it is not that expensive.
Now, when you say not that expensive, are we talking, $50, $500, $5,000?
Again, it's going to depend. So I'm going to say like a food manufacturer that's just starting off, or a caterer. For general liability for $1 million, which you really should have, I would say anywhere under $1,000 a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A retail store that's real small, I'm going to say under $1,000 a year. But again, it depends on what your sales are. That's what drives it a lot. So
So that's interesting how the sales are a big factor in this.
Yes, in some of cases, yes, it is.
Okay. And so yeah, kind of that under $1,000 gives us a good kind of guesstimate of where we might be around there. So we kind of know. And so I know you kind of mentioned that it protects you just from being sued. Is that really why, you get business insurance, is just in case you're going to sue, or are there other reasons people might get business insurance as well?
Well, it just depends, like I said, on what kind of business you are. I mean, you also might want to have property. Do you have inventory? Are you making a product? You also want to cover that too, just in case you have a fire or something happens.
Right.
If you're e-commerce and you are selling online, again, you're going to want cyber liability because let's say your business shuts down and you don't have any way to get information to your clients or sell. You want business insurance, business interruption. So there are other, reasons why you need coverage, not just because if you get sued. So.
Okay. And so let's kind of dive into this cyber insurance, because this is definitely, a newer item as we have all, really came on to the computer and not are in person. And even, we check our billing on our computer, or we do, QuickBooks or whatever that may be. So what is cyber insurance?
Cyber insurance protects you if something happens online on your website. If you have an app, again, let's say you get hacked. What's going to happen if you have your client's personal information? Well, it is a law for a business to protect their client's personal information. We know no one can do that. So that's cyber liability. Now, again, there's a limit. Some of my startups that are very, very small, I might give them $10,000 or $25,000. But again, if something happens, then they'll have something. So for instance, if I'm sure a lot of you have probably received a letter in the mail, like from Target or Home Depot, stating that your information might have been breached. Well, you also probably were offered credit monitoring. So they had to pay for that, and they have to pay for that. So if you have cyber liability, that's going to help pay for that. But let's say you shut down and you cannot sell your product anymore for a while. You're going to lose business. There is business interruption.
Interesting.
Ransomware. You open up your computer and someone says, give me $10,000 or I won't give you your information back. You can also get coverage on cyber liability for that too.
Wow. So there's many, as we're learning, every day in the news and stuff, there's many ways you can really be hacked. And as much as we all try to be protected, we know that's not always the case, because these hackers are pretty good at their job.
Yes, they are.
And so when you purchase this kind of insurance, do you purchase all these other, is it bundled, or do you have to ask for each specific kind of insurance that you're looking for?
Well, some companies just give you expense. And then there are others that do add all of this. Now, also, you really want to go with someone that really understands it, because again, you might not want business interruption if you don't sell a product. Like for instance, my office, we don't sell online, but I am covered for if somebody hacks our computer. We have a lot of social security numbers.
Right.
Also the ransomware, another thing. That's just not going to cost $10,000. That's also going to help pay for an IT person to help us try to figure out what's going on, and maybe some of the damage they did, or a virus.
It's really that ripple effect sometimes.
Yes.
When we have to solve these problems. It definitely adds up. And if you're not earning income and it's costing you a ton of money, that's huge. It's a huge problem that you probably don't have cash waiting for.
Right. Exactly.
And so then when people are, on a 1099 or a consultant, do those people need to carry insurance, or is that kind of covered by, who's ever employing them at that time?
Well, you really have to find that out, first of all. But anybody that's advising, giving, educating, again, giving advice, there is a coverage called either professional liability or error and omissions, E&O. And that's going to protect you for your services. So that general liability I was telling you about, that's really for bodily injury and property damage. So if you only have that and you don't have professional, you're not going to be covered if somebody sues you because you didn't give them the right information.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I will let you know also that most consultants that I speak to, I would say half of them have the coverage because they are working for a larger corporation that required it in their contract.
Oh, okay.
Consultants really don't have it. And again, if you're smaller, it's not that much money per year.
And so you kind of mentioned how some companies request that you have this insurance. And I know when we were talking, you tell a lot of contractors, send me that or show me that, and just so I can make sure you're having the right coverage. Are there common things that you see come up that you're like, oh, are there red flags that you always look for on there?
So my advice or tip is never sign a contract without showing your insurance agent the insurance requirements, because almost all contracts have insurance requirements of some type. And again, that person that's giving you the contract is probably not going to highlight that because they probably don't even really know about it. For instance, I had an architect come to me a couple of weeks ago and had a project. And I looked at the insurance requirements, and they said he needed $1 million of cyber liability. And to me, that was really high, and it's going to cost him thousands.
Yeah.
So I said to him, go back and ask him maybe if you could have like 50,000 or waive it. Well, guess what? They waived it. So again, it's really good to have a relationship with an insurance agent so you can talk to them about that.
Yeah.
I just had somebody today that is going to be renting a warehouse for their product. It's barbecue sauce. Well, they want him to not only have $1 million of general liability, but they want him to have 3 million umbrella also.
Wow.
He's not really making it in there. He's just storing it. So I'm kind of wondering why they would think, or what is the risk? But again, it's an attorney that is making up requirements for any type of risk. So that's why you need to go back, and 9 times out of 10, they will negotiate. They will tell you that's fine. Workman's comp. He also had workman's comp, but he doesn't have any employees. So they said, we'll waive that also.
It's so interesting that, all this insurance just for barbecue sauce, and it makes a lot of sense once you start diving into the details. And, if there was a food allergy, if someone, your addresses did get hacked with people's credit cards, I mean, it all makes sense. But you think it's like, oh, it's just barbecue sauce. Like, what could go wrong?
Right.
A lot of things, I guess, could.
Well, you can also find someone that, will sue too if something happens. So that's the problem.
Right. And so are there common mistakes that you see with, small businesses and their insurance?
Yes. One of the things is I tell people, please don't look at the premium first. It's not like going and buying a car or, buying groceries or gas, because you really want to know what you are being covered for and what are the exclusions. So for instance, I had somebody that's an IT person. They had an app, 100% online. I reviewed their current coverage and they had general liability, no cyber at all. Now, I do understand when people can't afford it. So that's why they should be giving you bare bones and then options, and you decide. And just so you know, you don't have to purchase all the insurance at that time. You can always add it later. You can always make changes to your policies no matter what. But this gentleman had an office policy when they should have been covered for cyber. So it really didn't make sense to me. So again, oh, great, it's $500, but then again, what is it covering?
Well, and $500 is as much as, 1 hour with the attorney.
Right. Exactly.
There's always that balance of you don't have money, but you don't have the money if you don't you don't have the money to take that risk either.
Right. Right. And I'll tell you too, a lot of these people that are in incubators or even, resource centers, remember, most people don't like insurance. They don't understand it. So it seems like it's not ever discussed. but
Hmm.
it should be one of the most important things besides having a lawyer, I'm going to say, and an accountant, is an insurance agent also.
Right. Because it does seem like there's many variables and you just have to be protected along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does the process kind of look like when you go for business insurance?
Okay, so first of all, what's going to happen is that agent's going to ask you all kinds of questions. They need to know what you're doing. Do you have 1099s? Do you have do you have employees? Just everything. And I do sometimes get, feedback from people saying, why do I need to answer all these questions? Well, we want to know everything that you're doing so we can give you the options. So what
Right.
happens is then you give us the information, we fill out an application. Now, some of these policies, like I'm going to say employment practices liability or that E&O, a lot of times you're going to have to fill out the application yourself because there's a lot of information, even cyber. They want to know how safe you are and what kind of network you're using, which would be really hard for us to get that out of you. And also a lot of people need their IT people.
Right.
So then we get the applications. For my company, because I represent many insurance companies, I shop it for you. Then I'm going to say 7 to 10 days I like to have, because then I can find you the best coverage with the best rates if I have that kind of time.
So,
I mean, you can find something in a day, but you are probably going to have better luck with better premiums than if you give, the agent a couple days or even a week. Then the companies come back, they give us the quotes, we find the best one for you, and then we offer you a proposal and then talk to you about it. A lot of times I know people get their proposals just sent to them, make an appointment to talk over what is on that proposal, because I know it's very daunting. There's a lot of information. There's probably a lot of coverage on there that the companies include that you probably don't need, but you can't take off. But at least you'll know what it is.
hmm
And then a lot of these companies, you can pay installments. And so if you like the coverage, then the agent will put it in place and you're covered. And then we also can give out proof of insurance for you. That's really our job. We do that probably 50 times a day, is send out proof of insurance. So
that's important. And so so I wanted, like, shopping around is kind of you talking to many different companies. So specifically your company doesn't just use, a State Farm or all these specific name insurance companies. You use many, so you can see what's best for that individual with the best price and everything else. I just want to make sure that's clear for the audience.
Yeah, and the thing that we are lucky about, because we have so many companies, is that we can insure a dog walker up to a dynamite factory. So
Wow.
we have companies that, we get all kinds of risks that come in to us and we're able to cover them. So.
Awesome. And so do you find a lot that small businesses underinsure themselves?
Yeah, or they don't understand what they have. That's the thing.
Right.
I think people are very nervous and anxious about it. So you really should get someone that you trust and that wants to talk to you. I mean, we started a small business and startup division in our office because for 7 to 8 years, I've heard so many people saying, I never got a call back, or I don't really know what it is, or they just sent me the quote and I really didn't feel good about it. So then they go into the mode of, okay, what's the least expensive, which you really don't want to do because you might not be paying for what you need.
Exactly. And so when you start your business, I know people are, making their foundations, making their books, making everything else. Do you recommend purchasing business insurance right when those transactions start going, or you start working with clients? You don't really need it in the building period?
Well, I will tell you, when you launch your business and you're getting people involved, like clients, I would purchase insurance. Now, I let people know, maybe start a month ahead of time when you think you're going to be ready. Because, remember, you've got a lot of things that you're working on and not just insurance for your new business. And you also want to take a little bit of time. And it doesn't just take a minute to get insurance. And you might call someone and not like them or feel good with them.
Right.
So, you want to give yourself a little bit of time. And even calling before you start, we get calls all day long like that. People have ideas and that kind of thing. Now, I will let you know that if you're in a very, very infancy stage, we might not be able to get you even an estimate because it's hard to estimate. But if you can give, some information, or you have, you're farther along, then we probably could help you with that.
Definitely. Yeah. You need some numbers to work with, to really understand the company. So I think, we've really talked about how important it is for businesses to have, not just business insurance, but either cybersecurity insurance, or in case things get shut down or whatever else. And that even though it might be more expensive than you were hoping it would be, or you don't feel it's in the budget, then it's definitely not in the budget to get sued or to hire an attorney at any point either, which is, you want to be proactive than reactive, as we like to say all the time. And really that making barbecue, walking dogs, working for working as a consultant, doesn't matter what you do. You need to be protected.
Right.
And know what kind of protection you have. And really, if you're going to pay it, know what you're paying for.
And also, too, another tip is make sure your agent reaches out to you every year, because things change. I'll tell you one example is I would talk to this gentleman who owns a restaurant all the time, and the account manager spoke to them. But I went out that year, and I came in and I looked to the left, which usually is a patio, and it was $100,000 addition that he didn't tell us about. So imagine if I never went in there or never even called him, because we would have asked him, what changes have you made and that kind of thing. We would have found out, but I was like shocked. And he had it, finished for like 3 or 4 months. He would not have had enough coverage on his policy to cover that if he had a loss, like a fire or water damage. So.
And, you got to keep those yearly calls going, because ideally you and your insurance agent want you to keep growing, want you to succeed, want you to get really big, or, whatever your goal is there. And so you do need to keep up that insurance as with you as you grow.
Yes.
Do you have any last tips or words of wisdom to our business owners out there today?
Just really try to learn what you're getting. Remember too, every year you speak to your agent, you're going to learn more and more. But just don't, like I said, a lot of people do it last. Dive in there, find someone you like, and get quotes as soon as you can. Because I have people that come to me that have been in business for 3 years, 10 years, and have never had coverage. Now, okay, they didn't have a claim. I get it. But I can't tell you the claims that people can have, and they've been devastated. So even if you're doing a build out. And another thing also is if you're doing work for someone or someone's doing work for you, don't assume they have the coverage. Find out if they have coverage. You can ask them for proof of insurance, because what happens is if you hire someone like a 1099 and something happens while they're working for you, like let's say they get hurt on the job, if they don't have their own workman's comp, they can go to you. And if you don't have workman's comp already, then you're going to be paying what the insurance companies would pay for that, for an injured employee. And I know a 1099 is not considered an employee, but in the insurance eyes and the courts, it is.
Yeah.
So make sure.
It's all great advice, because everyone wants to think, well, it'll never happen to me, but it happens to it has to happen to someone. So you definitely want to stay protected out there. And so what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
You can call us at 847-432-1000, or my email address is Anna, A-N-N-A, V-W at VitiCompanies.com, and that's V Victor ITI Companies.com.
Awesome.
Or
Thank you.
www.VitiCompanies.com.
Viti all around. Viti
Yes.
companies all around. So we thank you for coming on today, Anna Maria. You provided so much great information. As just to reiterate, Anna Maria is also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can check her out on our site, pursestrings.co, as well as any other financial professional that you're looking for. So you can be in good hands and really be protected and working with people who have your best interest in mind. And so we will be back here again next week. And thank you. And if you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out or just throw them in the comments.
Thank you, Maggie.
Of course, everyone have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Come on.